A wealthy man was taken aback when he stepped into an upscale restaurant and spotted his former fiancée, whom he had left 5 years prior, in the company of a boy who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. Before we dive into the narrative, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What city are you tuning in from? I hope you all appreciate the tale. Richard Foster, a young millionaire CEO, gazed at Emily, his fiancée, with a chilling stare, attempting to mask the storm of emotions raging within him. He faced a challenging choice, yet, in his perspective, it was an essential one. This isn't quite coming together, Emily. It's best if we conclude things here, he murmured, avoiding her eyes. Emily was taken aback. The atmosphere enveloped her, leaving her breathless, while her heart raced in a wild, unpredictable rhythm. So you're ending things with me? After all that we've experienced together? Her voice quivered, yet a hint of defiance lingered in her tone. Richard stepped back, deliberately avoiding her gaze. He realized that his choice was not driven by genuine feelings, but rather by outside influences. His family had always rejected Emily, considering her unsuitable for someone of his standing. They claimed she was merely an unremarkable girl, lacking both name and wealth. My family is correct, Emily. We come from distinct realms. This is bound to fail. The words resonated within her, heavy and foreboding. Emily, once confident in her self-reliance, now found herself grappling with feelings of vulnerability and betrayal. She understood that Richard was simply echoing the beliefs instilled in him by his family, yet that did nothing to diminish the reality of the pain. Are you allowing your family to dictate the course of your life? She moved closer, her eyes glistening with tears as they locked onto his. I believed you had more strength in you, Richard. He stayed quiet, unable to respond. Emily inhaled deeply, struggling to contain her emotions. She understood that it was futile to beg or attempt to sway him. The choice had been settled long ago. All right, if you believe this is for the best, then proceed, she murmured softly. Richard cast a final look at her before departing. With each step he took, it was as if he was bidding a final adieu. With the door shutting behind her, Emily sank onto the sofa, allowing her tears to flow without restraint. Her once cozy apartment now felt cramped and stifling. With a determined glance at the engagement ring adorning her finger, she swiftly took it off. Later that night, as she gazed vacantly at the ceiling, Emily felt her phone vibrate beside her. The call came as a surprise. Her parents, with whom she had lost touch for years. Emily, we must have a conversation. Return home, her father's authoritative voice commanded. Emily paused, yet the intensity in his voice compelled her to rethink her decision. It seemed like the moment had come to confront her history and, perhaps, discover a fresh path for her future. As Emily reached her parents' house, she hesitated for a moment, inhaling deeply before crossing the threshold. A butler opened the grand door, offering her a subtle nod of acknowledgement. The comfort of the surroundings stirred up recollections, yet she stood firm in her determination. She knew it was time to confront her family and discover the motive behind this unexpected call. In the grand hall, her parents stood in anticipation. Charles Carter occupied a leather armchair, his demeanor serious, while Victoria, his wife, exuded elegance and composure beside him. Emily, I'm pleased you're here, Charles remarked, shattering the stillness. I believed I had made it clear that I wouldn't be returning, she responded, her arms crossed defiantly. Victoria stood up and moved closer to her daughter, her eyes glistening with a blend of relief and worry. We understand that we've erred before, my dear, but your presence is essential to us now, Victoria said, her tone soft yet undeniably pressing. Emily arched an eyebrow, filled with doubt. Since when have her parents relied on her? They had consistently stood as the steadfast foundations of the Carter Empire, managing an extensive web of enterprises with unwavering authority. Do you require my assistance? What for? She inquired, her doubt unmistakable. Charles settled into the armchair, inhaling deeply before responding. I would like you to assume the role of president of the holding company. Surprise danced in Emily's gaze. After years of striving to break free from the burden of the Carter name, they were now requesting her to immerse herself in its very core. What makes me the one? You always claimed I didn't belong in this world, she shot back, her tone dripping with bitterness. You're the only one capable of handling this now, Charles said with a serious tone. As time passes, Emily, your mother and I realize that we must rely on ourselves for this important duty. Emily paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. The idea of stepping into such an important position and re-entering the corporate realm made her uneasy. Yet deep down, a quiet voice suggested it might be time to cease her flight. And if I say I don't want to? She challenged, folding her arms defiantly. We'll continue to ask until you change your mind, Victoria said, a subtle smile playing on her lips. Yet we are confident you will rise to the occasion. A stillness enveloped the space for a brief pause. Emily understood that the choice ahead would be challenging, yet a part of her, still wounded from the split with Richard and the strain she had faced, yearned to demonstrate that she was capable of far more than he and his family had ever envisioned. Very well, but we shall proceed according to my vision, she asserted with conviction. For the first time since her arrival, Charles smiled. He understood that once Emily reached a conclusion, there was no swaying her. In the days that ensued, Emily delved deeply into the operations of the holding company. The figures, the analyses, the ceaseless discussions, all served as a reminder of the intensity of the corporate landscape, yet also highlighted the challenges and rewards it offered. She sensed a resurgence of power over her existence, crafting a renewed identity. Years after her split with Richard, Emily Carter's existence had transformed significantly. Now, as the leader of the Carter Holding Company, she presided over a vast empire with assurance and command. That evening, she longed for nothing more than a serene dinner with Noah, her 5-year-old son, at one of the city's finest restaurants. Emily walked in, fingers intertwined with Noah's, capturing the attention of onlookers. Clad in a sophisticated black dress, she radiated self-assurance. Noah, in contrast, radiated the vibrant energy characteristic of youth, taking in the world around him with keen curiosity. His innocent smile and striking features made it undeniable how closely he mirrored Richard. They chose a table by the window, where Noah eagerly started to ask questions about the world around them. Emily responded with patience, cherishing those tranquil moments shared with her son. Yet, destiny appeared to have different intentions for the night. As Emily savored her wine, the restaurant door swung open, and Richard Foster entered alongside 2 investors. He maintained an authoritative aura, clad in a meticulously tailored suit, his demeanor keen and intent. Emily paused for an instant at the sight of him, yet swiftly collected herself, resolute in her intention to maintain her tranquility despite his presence. Richard was completely absorbed in his business meeting, oblivious to her presence, until the waiter directed him to a nearby table. At that moment, he caught sight of her. Emily, poised and graceful, a glass of wine delicately held in her hand, alongside a boy who bore a remarkable resemblance to him. It hit like a bolt from the blue. For a brief instant, Richard found himself frozen in place. His gaze moved from Emily to the boy next to her, and he sensed the earth quaking beneath him. Emily observed the astonishment and bewilderment etched on Richard's face, yet she held onto her composure. She gracefully lifted her wine glass and savored a sip, pointedly disregarding his presence. Richard, captivated, found himself swept away by a torrent of feelings. Thoughts of their separation flooded her mind, the frigid manner in which he had departed, and the biting remarks he had uttered lingered painfully. Now, as he observed her, radiant and poised, accompanied by a boy who mirrored his own features so closely, those memories lingered in his mind like shadows. He found it difficult to concentrate on the discussion with the investors. With every tick of the clock, his intrigue and discomfort intensified. Who was that boy? Is it conceivable that he could be his son? The notion unsettled him, yet it was logical. Emily chose to overlook Richard, directing her focus instead on Noah, who was animatedly discussing the piano. Yet, she sensed his intense gaze upon her, and that provided her with a feeling of power. It was precisely as she envisioned. After what felt like an eternity, Richard reached his breaking point. He politely stepped away from the investors and approached Emily's table, gathering his thoughts before initiating a conversation. Emily. She glanced upward, pretending to be taken aback by his presence. Richard. What a surprising twist of fate. Serendipity? He lifted an eyebrow, casting a quick look at Noah, who was now intently watching the unfamiliar figure. Are you? So what's the verdict? I'm doing quite well, thank you. What about you? Her tone remained courteous, yet a trace of irony lingered in her words. Richard paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. He understood that this wasn't the moment for straightforward inquiries, yet he found himself unable to restrain his curiosity. He looked at the boy once more, and his voice emerged more gently than he had meant it to. Who is this individual? Emily leaned in a bit, her gaze fixed intently on Richard. This is my son, Noah. Richard experienced those words striking him with the force of a blow to the gut. He glanced at Noah once more, who was now munching on a piece of bread, blissfully oblivious to the gravity of the discussion. Is that your son? He echoed, disbelief evident in his voice. Indeed, my son, Emily stated with conviction. Richard's thoughts surged like a whirlwind. The boy was 5 years old, precisely the duration since he and Emily had parted ways. The timelines aligned perfectly, and the similarity in appearance was unmistakable. He started to speak, but she interrupted him. This isn't the right setting for that kind of discussion, Richard. He inhaled deeply, attempting to calm the tumult of feelings swirling within him. Emily was indeed correct. The restaurant was not a suitable setting for disputes or challenging inquiries. We must discuss this, he stated, his tone more composed now, yet still pressing. Perhaps, Emily responded, raising her chin just a touch. However, it will be according to my conditions, not yours. Richard understood that he was left with no alternatives. Emily held the reins firmly, leaving him with no power to impose his will in this situation. Very well, I'll be here, he remarked before moving away, heading back to his table, yet his mind was preoccupied with the startling news he had just learned. In the meantime, Emily observed Richard subtly from the periphery of her vision. She recognized that the meeting had disturbed him, and although she had long awaited this moment, its arrival brought her an unexpected sense of tranquility. Noah, unaware of the charged atmosphere surrounding them, grasped Emily's hand and beamed at her. Mother, may I have the opportunity to play the piano? She returned the smile, gently caressing his hair. Absolutely, my dear. With determination, Noah dashed toward the piano, while Emily steadied herself with a deep breath. The confrontation with Richard was just starting, yet she felt prepared to tackle whatever challenges awaited her. Richard Foster found himself unable to find rest that night. Her voice resonated within him. The vision of Noah, strikingly similar to him, lingered persistently in his mind. The nagging doubt that the boy could be his son enveloped him. He understood the necessity of taking action, yet the method required careful consideration. Emily had transformed into someone far more complex than the naive girl he once believed he understood. Now she had become a formidable force in the business world, and Richard had to tread carefully before facing her once more. The following morning, Richard gathered his reliable team. I require comprehensive details regarding Emily Carter, he stated, his tone unmistakably authoritative. I'm eager to learn all that has transpired in her life over the last 5 years. His team swiftly sprang into action, and before long, reports started to come in. Richard examined the documents with great attention, each page uncovering a different aspect of Emily's existence. She not only assumed the role of president of the Carter Holding Company, but she also spearheaded remarkable business expansions. Under her guidance, the company thrived, establishing itself as one of the largest in the nation. Amidst the reports, a particular detail piqued his interest: records related to medical and travel activities. In the months after their separation, Emily discreetly sought care at a private clinic. Richard furrowed his brow, captivated by the mystery, and instructed his team to investigate further. By early afternoon, one of his aides came back with more details. Mr. Foster, it appears that Emily has made a visit to the clinic for her prenatal care. The dates align with the period when you were still a couple, the assistant noted, presenting additional documents. Richard sensed the burden of affirmation. He shut his eyes briefly, attempting to absorb it all. Noah resembled him in every way. All signs indicated that the boy was indeed his son. Resolute in his quest for clarity, Richard chose to head to the clinic for additional insights. Through his connections, he obtained Emily's medical records. The ultimate validation arrived as a DNA test included within the file. The evidence was clear. Noah Smith was indeed his biological son. The first jolt transformed into a tide of remorse and sorrow. Richard remembered the moment he decided to part ways with Emily, reflecting on how he had criticized her for embracing a straightforward existence, and the expectations that weighed heavily from his family. He came to understand that by yielding to their deceit, he had not only lost Emily but had also overlooked the early years of his son's life. Yet what weighed heavily on his mind was the inquiry. Why had Emily never revealed the truth to him? Resolute in his decision to face her, Richard contacted his secretary and arranged an urgent meeting with Emily, masking it as a discussion about business. Upon his arrival at the boardroom of Carter Holding Company, he was welcomed by Emily, who appeared to be fully aware of the purpose of his visit. "Richard, I didn't anticipate crossing paths with you again so quickly," she remarked, her voice steady. "We need to have a conversation, and you understand it's not related to work," he stated directly. Emily held her silence for a moment, then gestured for him to take a seat. With a decisive motion, she shut the door, folded her arms, and prepared herself for him to speak. "Noah is my son, correct?" Richard inquired, getting right to the heart of the matter. Emily remained unfazed. She had foreseen that he would uncover the truth eventually. "Indeed, he is," she responded with conviction. The confirmation, while anticipated, struck Richard with the force of a gut punch. His breath caught for a fleeting moment, yet he swiftly regained his composure. "Why didn't you share that with me?" His voice resonated with a blend of anguish and exasperation. "I deserve to be informed, Emily." "Did you really?" She responded with a sharp, sardonic laugh. "After the manner in which you departed from my life. So, you left me behind because your beloved family thought I didn't measure up?" Richard parted his lips to reply, yet the words lodged themselves in his throat. He recognized that Emily had a point. "I acted according to my beliefs in that moment," he confessed, his eyes dropping to the ground. "However, I was mistaken." Emily inhaled deeply, striving to maintain her composure and prevent her feelings from overflowing. "I decided to raise Noah independently because I was certain that depending on you or your family would turn him into just another piece in their scheme. I refused to allow that to occur to my son." Richard was deeply affected by her words. He had never thought about how his family's impact could have pushed Emily to distance herself from him. "I wish to be involved in his life," Richard declared, his tone unwavering. "I wish to reclaim the moments we've missed, Emily." She observed him intently, probing his gaze for authenticity. "Participating in Noah's life is not as straightforward as it seems, Richard. You must demonstrate that you have transformed, that you are no longer the vulnerable individual who allowed himself to be controlled. And I shall demonstrate it," he vowed. Emily understood that this was merely the beginning of a series of challenging discussions they would face. Though she was open to allowing Richard the opportunity to prove himself, she was just as resolute in her commitment to safeguarding Noah from any harmful influences. Following the revelation, Richard found himself solitary in his office for the majority of the night, deep in contemplation. The realization that Noah was his son continued to linger in his mind. Yet what weighed on his mind even more was the chill in Emily's demeanor. While he grasped the cause of her bitterness, he recognized that winning back her trust would be a formidable endeavor. The following morning, Richard resolved to initiate the journey of forging a bond with Noah. He dialed Emily's number, but the call was immediately directed to her voicemail. He made another attempt, but the outcome remained unchanged. It certainly wouldn't be a walk in the park. Resolute in his intent, he crafted a brief yet straightforward message. I wish to see Noah. Let me know the time and place. Emily sipped her coffee on the balcony as she absorbed the message. She understood that Richard was not the type to relent. Deep down, she realized that eventually, she would need to allow him to meet their son. With a weary breath, she responded, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Heart of the city. Arrive by yourself. The following day, Richard made his way to the park, arriving a few minutes ahead of schedule. He donned informal attire, an uncommon appearance for him. Yet he aimed to leave a favorable mark. From afar, he noticed Emily perched on a bench as Noah frolicked in the grass nearby. Richard's heart pounded in his chest as he observed the boy. For the first time, he permitted himself to envision what his life could have been had he been aware of his son from the beginning. You're late, Emily said as he approached, though she was aware that wasn't the case. I arrived early, but I didn't want to disturb anyone, he responded. In an effort to maintain a playful atmosphere, Emily glanced at him briefly, seemingly gauging his honesty, before directing her voice towards Noah. Noah, darling, come here. The boy dashed towards his mother, his face radiating the pure, joyful smile of youth. He paused next to Emily, grasping her hand, and regarded Richard with a sense of intrigue. This is Richard, Emily stated with a serene demeanor. He wishes to have a meeting with you. Noah's brow furrowed briefly before a timid smile broke through. Hello, Richard. Richard knelt down to meet the boy's gaze, a surge of emotion washing over him as he heard Noah's voice for the first time. Hello, Noah. It's wonderful to make your acquaintance. The boy chuckled quietly, evidently more captivated by the idea of returning to his game. Would you like to join me in a game? Noah inquired, lifting a vibrant ball into the air. Richard beamed. Absolutely, I'm ready to join in. As they engaged in their game, Emily observed from afar, her feelings in turmoil. Observing Richard alongside Noah was peculiar, yet she couldn't ignore the undeniable ease in their bond. Noah appeared at ease, and for the first time, Richard seemed to relax, revealing a more relatable side. After an hour, Noah hurried back to Emily, weary yet filled with joy. Mommy, he's amazing at playing ball, the boy exclaimed with enthusiasm. Emily beamed and playfully ruffled his hair. I'm delighted to hear you enjoyed yourself, darling. Richard approached, inhaling deeply. He understood that this moment was fleeting, yet there was a crucial message he felt compelled to convey. Emily, I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to meet him. It holds a significance for me that you may not fully grasp. She gazed at him, her demeanor solemn. Richard, allow me to clarify something important. Allowing you to see Noah today doesn't imply that all issues are settled. There remains much for you to demonstrate. I'm aware, he stated with conviction, and I'm prepared to do anything necessary. She responded with a firm resolve. I hope so, because I won't tolerate empty promises. Before grasping Noah's hand. Let's go, darling. It's time to return to the comforts of home. As Richard observed Emily and Noah depart, a blend of hope and resolve surged within him. He understood that the journey before him would be arduous, yet he was determined to reclaim not just Emily, but also his rightful place as Noah's father. How about we engage in a fun little activity with those who focus solely on the comments? Drop a pizza emoji in the comments. Only those who have journeyed to this point will truly comprehend. Let us proceed with the narrative. Following the gathering in the park, Richard found his thoughts consumed by Noah and Emily. The weight of having lost vital years of his son's life enveloped him, and he realized he had to uncover the events that transpired during their separation. Driven by a need for answers, he engaged a private investigator to explore the years when Emily had disappeared from his existence. 2 days later, the investigator presented a comprehensive report brimming with details that left Richard both fascinated and, at moments, astonished. Emily encountered considerable obstacles, particularly in her decision to raise Noah independently. The report detailed numerous visits to medical clinics throughout her pregnancy and pediatric hospitals during Noah's formative years. The boy had seemingly faced respiratory challenges soon after his arrival, yet Emily, with unwavering determination, navigated it all independently. Richard found himself consumed by self-blame. As he enjoyed the ease of his corporate existence, Emily navigated the challenges of motherhood all on her own. More than ever, he sensed the urgency to set things straight. The following morning, Richard showed up at the Carter Holding Company building without prior notice. He understood that Emily would greet him with caution, yet he could no longer postpone the discussion. As he stepped into the reception area, he encountered cautious glances from the employees, who unmistakably acknowledged his presence. "Mr. Foster, Miss Carter is currently in a meeting," the receptionist said, her voice trembling slightly. "She will notice me. Just inform her that I'm present," he stated with conviction. Moments later, the door to Emily's office swung open. She exuded elegance, yet her expression betrayed a hint of irritation. "Richard, what do you want?" she inquired, her arms crossed defiantly. He entered the office uninvited, shutting the door with a deliberate motion. "I seek to grasp the true events that unfolded, Emily. I have perused the reports. I understand the pain you experienced, and I recognize my own weakness in walking away from you that day. I need to hear it from you, not from documents." Emily sighed, clearly annoyed, yet she gestured for him to take a seat. Following a brief pause, she started to speak. "When you departed, Richard, my main focus became safeguarding Noah. I anticipated that your family would attempt to manipulate him if they discovered he was real. I couldn't bear the thought of him being a mere piece in their power struggles." She paused, gazing out the window, then resumed. "I chose to navigate this path on my own because it was the right choice for him. My father urged me to share everything with you, but I lacked faith that you would defend us against your family. And honestly, I didn't want to depend on someone who left me so effortlessly." Her words pierced through him, yet Richard understood he had earned each one. "You're correct. I was weak," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "But things have changed, Emily. I've transformed, and I desire to be present, not merely as a father, but to genuinely support both of you." Emily observed him, assessing his authenticity. Amidst the turmoil, she noticed a change within Richard. However, placing my trust in him once more was an entirely different issue. "Words come easily, Richard. I refuse to jeopardize Noah's well-being for mere words. If you wish to be involved in his life, you must demonstrate it not only to me but to him as well." "And I will," Richard replied with conviction. Emily reclined in her chair, lost in contemplation. Richard found himself puzzled by the nuances of her expression, unable to decipher its true meaning. "Noah is a brilliant child, but he's sensitive," she said. "If you come into his life and then leave, it could break him." "I won't let that happen," Richard nodded. "I comprehend. I assure you my promise is steadfast. I'm here to stay." A thick stillness enveloped them until Emily eventually steered the dialogue in a new direction. "There's something you need to know," she said with a hint of uncertainty. "After you left, my mother attempted to step in. She considered informing your family about Noah, but I intervened." Uncertainty loomed in the air, and Richard's brow furrowed as he pondered the implications of their knowledge, realizing it could potentially complicate matters even further. The thought that his family could be aware of Noah and yet remain silent unsettled him, yet he was also acutely aware of their capacity for manipulation. "No matter what they think they know, it won't change anything. I will shield Noah from any pressure they attempt to impose," he promised her. Emily remained doubtful, yet there was a sincerity in Richard's gaze that instilled a sense of trust in her. "I hope you keep that promise, Richard, because if you don't, I won't show you any mercy," she said with a chilling tone. Richard acknowledged with a nod, standing up from his chair. "You'll see I mean it, Emily." He exited her office, a fresh determination guiding his steps. Emily's words resonated within him, and he understood that to restore her trust and reclaim his role in Noah's life, he must confront his past and demonstrate his readiness to be the father and partner they needed. Upon exiting Emily's office, Richard realized he could not afford to delay. Gaining her trust was merely one facet of the challenge ahead. Above all, establishing a bond with Noah was essential. The boy's curiosity was evident, yet he remained wary of unfamiliar faces, indicating that each encounter required meticulous and considerate planning. The following day, Richard contacted Emily once more, proposing a more laid-back outing that would allow him to engage with his son for an extended period. After a moment of doubt, she consented, but emphasized that this did not imply he would have a lasting presence in Noah's life. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., visiting the zoo, Emily remarked, Noah has a deep affection for animals, and this is a space where he truly feels at ease. Richard nodded in agreement, fully aware that each moment presented a chance to deepen his connection with his son. The next morning, Richard made his way to the zoo with punctuality. Dressed in casual attire and sporting a cap to protect himself from the sun, he presented a stark contrast to his usual boardroom appearance. Upon seeing Emily and Noah at the entrance, a blend of nervousness and hope washed over him. Noah was brimming with excitement, clutching a zoo map and eagerly sharing his thoughts about the animals he was eager to encounter. Upon spotting Richard approaching, he waved shyly, yet his smile radiated warmth. "You came," Noah exclaimed with great excitement. "Absolutely," Richard responded, lowering himself to the boy's height. "I wouldn't pass up the opportunity to experience all these animals alongside you." Emily observed the exchange from afar, staying alert. Despite her desire for Noah to foster a good bond with Richard, her instinct for caution remained her most trusted companion. The trio commenced their journey at the big cat habitats. Noah's fascination with the lions and tigers captivated Richard, who eagerly took every chance to engage with him, imparting intriguing facts about the majestic creatures. Slowly, the strain between them dissipated, and Noah began to feel more comfortable. "Look at that lion. He truly embodies the king of the jungle, doesn't he, Richard?" Noah inquired, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Absolutely, Noah. They earn the title of kings of the jungle due to their strength and courage," Richard said with a smile. Noah hurried to the next section, where the elephants awaited. Richard and Emily trailed behind, maintaining a relaxed speed. "He's incredible, Emily," Richard remarked earnestly. "I appreciate you allowing me this time with him. He means the world to me," Emily responded, her gaze locked on her son. "I just hope you grasp the weight of this responsibility." "I grasp it more than ever," Richard assured her. Following hours of wandering through the zoo, they took a break in a picnic area. Emily had prepared some snacks for Noah, and Richard seized the moment to take a seat beside the young boy. "Noah, what's been your favorite animal so far?" Richard inquired, aiming to delve into a more intimate dialogue. "The tigers. They possess remarkable speed and strength. I aspire to be like them when I grow up," Noah remarked with a chuckle. "And you will be, I'm certain of it," Richard said, playfully tousling the boy's hair. While Noah enjoyed his meal, Emily watched the dynamics closely. Richard was making an effort, though it was clear there was much to improve. Still, there was an authenticity in his demeanor that sparked her curiosity about whether he had genuinely transformed. Once their snacks were done, Noah was eager to check out the penguins before they departed. Richard grasped his hand, and they strolled side by side toward the frigid habitat. Emily trailed closely, observing how Noah conversed with Richard as if they were old friends. "The penguins are so amusing," Noah laughed, his eyes sparkling with delight as he observed them gliding across the ice. Richard chuckled, sensing a deeper bond with his son as time went on. As the visit drew to a close, Emily pulled Noah aside, ready to bid farewell to Richard. "Today was enjoyable, Mom. Richard knows a lot about animals," Noah said with enthusiasm. Emily nodded, her eyes turning to Richard. "It was a good day, but as I mentioned earlier, this is only the start." Richard grinned, feeling a subtle triumph. "I understand, Emily, and I'll continue to show that I'm not going anywhere." Before they separated, Noah unexpectedly embraced Richard. "Until next time, Richard. I hope you'll join me again to see more animals." Richard was taken aback but warmly embraced the boy, touched by his unexpected enthusiasm. I will absolutely return, Noah.
J'assure you.
Once inside his car, Richard felt a renewed sense of determination. He understood that cultivating a connection with Noah and restoring Emily's trust would require patience. Yet the day spent at the zoo marked a significant milestone. The subsequent days unfolded quietly, but Richard was aware that this tranquility was fleeting. As he endeavored to deepen his relationship with Noah and mend Emily's trust, an unforeseen challenge arose, adding complexity to the situation. A figure from history had reemerged. Victor Hale, once a contender for Emily's affection and a direct rival to Richard in the business arena, was back in town. In the past, Victor had made his attempts to capture Emily's heart, only to be turned away without a moment's pause. The rejection had ignited a quiet bitterness, and now he perceived a chance for retribution. Upon discovering the rekindled bond between Emily and Richard, Victor resolved to take action. He made his way to a gala event organized by the Carter Holding Company, where Emily, as the hostess, found herself unable to evade an encounter with him. He approached her with a flawlessly practiced smile. "Emily, it's always a delight to see you," he said, his voice laced with insincerity. "Victor," Emily replied, her tone unyielding. "I was surprised to find you here. However, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to commend you on the remarkable achievements of the holding company. You've undeniably made a significant impact in the business world," he praised before continuing. "I've heard that you and Richard Foster have been spending a lot of time together." Emily maintained her composure, though her gaze sharpened a bit. "What occurs between me and Richard is not your concern, Victor." "Oh, I see what you mean," Victor remarked with a smile that failed to light up his eyes. "It struck me as curious that he returned after all this time." Emily recognized that Victor was probing for details, but she had no intention of revealing anything. "I have other matters to attend to, Victor. Have a good evening," she said, turning on her heel and leaving without a glance back. Victor, however, was not one to back down so easily. The following day, he reached out to a tabloid reporter, sharing ambiguous and conjectural details regarding Emily and Richard's relationship, along with the revelation of Noah. The story rapidly circulated, igniting a media storm. Richard learned of the news during a meeting with his team. His expression grew stern as he absorbed the headline, "Billionaire Heiress and Millionaire CEO, The Secret Connection and Hidden Son." Without hesitation, he dialed Emily, who picked up with a strained tone. "Have you seen the news?" Richard inquired. "Absolutely, I have. And I have a solid hunch about who's responsible," she responded, clearly annoyed. "Victor?" Richard speculated, remembering the name she had brought up earlier. "Absolutely. He's always been fixated on controlling me, and now he's leveraging Noah and you to gain attention," Emily remarked. Richard inhaled deeply, attempting to manage his frustration. "This situation is untenable, Emily. I refuse to let Noah be put in such a position." "I won't either," she concurred. "I'm already taking legal action to contain the damage." "What about Victor?" Richard inquired, his voice icy and resolute. "Leave him to me," Emily replied with unwavering confidence. "I know how to handle people like Victor." As she consulted her lawyers, Richard chose to confront Victor head-on. Aware of his rival's calculating and manipulative nature, he felt compelled to act, unwilling to let his family's integrity be compromised. Richard spotted Victor at an elite business club, a venue where the man frequently showcased his power. Upon noticing Richard, Victor lifted his wine glass in a mocking salute, as if he had been anticipating his arrival. "Richard, what a surprise. What brings you here?" Victor asked, a cynical smile playing on his lips. "Let's not pretend, Victor. We both know you're the mastermind behind that sensationalist article," Richard replied, cutting straight to the point. Victor savored a sip of his wine before replying. "As for me, I merely offered some intriguing snippets. It's not my fault that people are drawn to a captivating tale." Richard moved in, his voice steady yet tinged with menace. "If you believe you can manipulate Emily or Noah for your own gain, you're gravely mistaken. I will not allow you to persist in this charade." "It's intriguing to hear that from you," Victor said with a hint of challenge. After all, you were the one who left Emily behind initially. Perhaps I'm merely completing what you began. The mention of the breakup stirred the guilt Richard had been trying to overcome, but he refused to let it show. The difference between us, Victor, is that I acknowledge my mistakes and I'm working to fix them. You, on the other hand, only know how to destroy, Victor chuckled, clearly relishing the confrontation. Best of luck with that, Richard. Just keep in mind, in the world of business, hesitation equates to loss. Richard exited the club, feeling a blend of frustration and resolve. He understood that Victor was not one to back down, yet he was prepared to confront him directly. In the meantime, Emily discovered an unforeseen way to manage Noah's exposure. Rather than attempting to protect him any longer, she opted to tackle the issue with openness. In a captivating interview with a distinguished journalist, she thoughtfully recounted her journey, presenting Noah to the world as a cherished and safeguarded child. My priority has always been to shield my son, Emily asserted with conviction. Yet, I also wish for him to understand that there is nothing to be ashamed of. He stands as my most significant accomplishment. The interview garnered widespread support and admiration from the public, altering the narrative surrounding the story. Victor, feeling frustrated by his unsuccessful strategy, withdrew for a time, yet both Richard and Emily were acutely aware that he still posed a potential threat. After Emily's interview, a sense of stability began to emerge. The favorable media coverage alleviated some of the criticisms, and the public's backing of her choice to safeguard Noah provided a measure of comfort. However, beneath this seemingly tranquil surface, an unforeseen proposal arrived on Emily's desk. An influential global consortium has shown interest in obtaining a substantial share of the Carter Holding Company. The proposal is enticing, with the potential for growth into untapped markets. Yet, it carries a troubling stipulation. The group sought to gain a measure of control over operations, which would inevitably subject the company's decisions to outside influence. Emily found herself conflicted. On one side, the proposal represented growth and the promise of long-term financial stability. On the other hand, she understood that accepting it would entail relinquishing a portion of the independence she had battled fiercely to attain. That evening, while she pored over the contract details in her office, she heard soft footsteps. Turning her gaze to the door, she spotted Noah holding his beloved blanket. "Mom, why are you still up?" he inquired, rubbing his eyes. Emily beamed and gestured for him to take a seat on her lap. "I'm currently engaged in my work, darling. I have some significant choices to consider for the company." "Is it challenging?" Noah inquired, his eyes wide with the pure wonder of youth. Emily let out a soft sigh, her fingers tenderly running through his hair. "A small amount. At times we find ourselves faced with decisions that impact many, and that can be quite challenging." Noah paused for a moment before inquiring, "Is there a way Richard can assist?" The mention of Richard took Emily by surprise. She sensed that Noah was beginning to form a bond with him, yet she remained uncertain about how Richard would integrate into their lives moving forward. "Maybe," she replied with a hint of uncertainty, "but there are some choices I must face alone." Noah wrapped his arms around her, and for a fleeting moment, Emily sensed the power of that simple act. All her actions revolved around him, and every choice she faced placed Noah at the forefront of her mind. The following day, Emily reached out to Richard, inviting him to her office. Upon his arrival, he discovered her at her desk, enveloped by a sea of documents. "What's going on?" he inquired, observing her anxious demeanor. "I received a proposal from an international group to acquire part of the holding," Emily clarified. "It's a remarkable chance, yet it may jeopardize our independence. I need your opinion." Richard sat across from her, meticulously reviewing the papers she had handed him. After a few moments of silence, he finally broke the stillness. "It's an impressive offer, but I don't think it's worth it. Partial control implies that you'll need to consult with them regarding strategic choices. That might undermine your stance over time." Emily nodded, having foreseen this assessment, yet she still wished to hear his viewpoint. "I agree," she said, "but the expansion they're promising could secure Noah's future. That's what's tearing me apart, Richard said, his gaze fixed on her with intensity. Emily, you created this holding company through your sheer will. You don't require an outside entity to ensure Noah's future. He already has everything he needs. Richard's words resonated with Emily, yet the burden of the choice loomed large. Even so, I can't overlook the possible consequences of this proposal. Richard leaned in, his gaze fixed intently on hers. You're not alone in this. You don't have to shoulder the entire burden by yourself. I'm here, Emily. For you and for Noah. A whirlwind of emotions stirred within Emily. The authenticity in Richard's words was clear, yet the challenge of placing her trust in him once more lingered within. Later that day, Emily resolved to address the issue with the holdings board. In the meeting, she laid out the advantages and disadvantages of the proposal, inviting various viewpoints before arriving at a conclusive choice. Opinions varied, yet a majority appeared ready to embrace the offer, highlighting the monetary advantages and opportunities for growth. Emily, on the other hand, maintained a sense of caution. After considering all the input, she expressed her gratitude to everyone and concluded the meeting, assuring them that she would reveal her decision shortly. Meanwhile, Victor Hale observed from a distance, biding his time for the ideal moment to step in. Whispers of the proposal had reached him, and he understood that by shaking Emily's confidence within the organization, he could seize the advantage. Victor started subtly planting seeds of doubt among the board members, insinuating that Emily's leadership might pose a risk if she turned down the proposal. He understood that just one wrong move could lead to an expansion of his power. That night, Emily returned home, her mind swirling with concerns. Once Noah was tucked in, she settled onto the balcony, staring at the city lights while attempting to sort through her thoughts. Then her phone rang. It was Richard. Emily, I've been contemplating something that might be beneficial, he stated plainly. What if you consider an alternative approach, one that enables growth without relinquishing authority? How precisely, she inquired, captivated. You might establish a strategic alliance rather than divesting a portion of the holdings. This method allows you to retain control while simultaneously tapping into new markets. We can adjust the terms and put forth a counteroffer. Emily paused for a few moments, weighing the suggestion. It was a gamble, yet it seemed logical. It's a fascinating strategy, she acknowledged, but persuading the board will be a challenge. Let me handle that. I'll assist you in crafting something persuasive. United, they could shift the dynamics. Despite her lingering doubts, Emily sensed an opportunity for equilibrium. In the days that followed, Richard and Emily dedicated themselves to refining the new proposal. Richard applied his corporate knowledge to assist her in developing a robust plan, while Emily worked on a speech for the board presentation. When the meeting day came, she felt prepared. In her presentation, Emily detailed the new strategy, highlighting how the partnership would maintain the holdings' independence while venturing into new markets. The board paid close attention, and as she concluded, Emily remained quiet while they considered her words. At last, the chairman rose. Ms. Carter, your proposal is both robust and creative. Your decision to proceed with the strategic partnership has our full support. Emily experienced a sense of relief wash over her. After weeks of uncertainty, she finally felt a sense of control return. Following the meeting, Richard encountered her in the hallway. Congratulations, Emily. You accomplished it. We did it, she corrected, a small smile gracing her lips. Yet, despite the triumph with the board, Emily understood that the struggle was far from concluded. Victor Hale still hovered like a dark cloud, intent on discovering a means to weaken her authority. Upon catching wind of whispers regarding his potential next steps, Emily resolved to take action before he could inflict any more damage. In the meantime, Richard ramped up his attempts to demonstrate his dedication to the family. He understood that gaining Emily's trust and establishing a lasting role in Noah's life hinged on tangible deeds rather than mere promises. That morning, Emily awoke with a palpable sense of urgency. Fueled by a fierce determination to defend all she had created, she summoned her lawyer and trusted team for a crucial meeting. In that gathering, They delved into strategies to fortify the legal structure of the holding company and shield its assets from any outside threats, particularly those posed by Victor. We must examine each current contract thoroughly to guarantee there are no legal gaps that could be taken advantage of, Emily stated with conviction. Her attorney, a seasoned and detail-oriented individual, agreed with a nod. We've initiated the review process, but we will amplify our efforts. Any attempts at sabotage would be thwarted. Emily experienced a flicker of relief, yet she understood that she couldn't depend entirely on legal avenues. Victor was shrewd and adept at striking from various fronts. Meanwhile, Richard had his own intentions. Resolute in his decision to confront his family, he set up a meeting with his father, Robert Foster, the man who had exerted the most pressure on him to leave Emily behind in the past. The dynamic between father and son had always been fraught, but now Richard was prepared to confront the imposing figure. In the expansive office of the Foster mansion, Robert occupied a substantial wooden desk as Richard stepped inside. The air was thick with tension, and the walls, decorated with portraits of ancestors, appeared to observe every action. "Richard, what brings you here?" Robert inquired, his gaze fixed on the report in his hands. "I want to discuss Emily and Noah," Richard stated, cutting to the chase. Robert arched an eyebrow, visibly taken aback, yet maintained his composure. "And why should I care? Because your influence drove me to make the gravest mistake of my life, and now I'm seeking to rectify it," Richard replied, his tone unwavering. "You pushed me away from the woman I cherished and from my son." Robert paused, his silence stretching before he reclined in his chair. "You've always understood that some decisions are necessary for the sake of the legacy, Richard. Emotions hold no significance in the reality we inhabit. That's your perspective. However, it's not the path I wish to pursue in my life," Richard countered. "I refuse to allow you or anyone else to meddle once more." Robert emitted a soft chuckle, yet a hint of contempt lingered in his voice. "And what precisely do you plan to accomplish?" Richard advanced, his eyes brimming with resolve. "Safeguard my family. I will ensure that Noah is never burdened by your expectations or manipulations." Robert's expression turned steely. "Choose your words wisely, Richard. You still carry the Foster name. That's precisely why I've come. The name of the Foster family holds no weight without a foundation of respect and values." The discussion concluded in a deadlock, yet Richard exited the office with a sense of relief. He had at last faced the individual who had wielded power over much of his existence. Now he was poised to embrace the future. In the days that ensued, Richard immersed himself in crafting significant experiences with Noah. He brought him to the planetarium, guided him in mastering bike riding, and devoted entire afternoons to assisting him with a colossal puzzle. Each smile from Noah deepened Richard's sense of connection. Meanwhile, Emily observed from afar, unable to ignore the authenticity of Richard's change. One evening, after tucking Noah in, Emily discovered Richard in the kitchen, preparing a cup of tea. She entered, arms crossed. "You're doing well with Noah," she stated matter-of-factly. Richard smiled, clearly taken aback by the praise. "He's an incredible kid. The time I get to spend with him is the highlight of my day." Emily paused for a moment before continuing, "But that doesn't mean I completely trust you." Richard nodded, comprehension evident in his expression. "I don't anticipate you to place your trust in me immediately, Emily. However, I'm prepared to continuously demonstrate that I deserve your trust." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, and for a fleeting moment, Emily let her defenses falter. Meanwhile, Victor was strategizing his next step. He arranged an exclusive dinner with key figures from the Carter Holding Company's board, intending to persuade them that Emily lacked the capability to navigate the escalating challenges in the international market. However, Victor was caught off guard by Emily's proactive stance. Armed with insights from her team, she uncovered the meeting and chose to take action. With Richard's guidance, who recommended a bolder strategy, Emily convened an emergency board meeting for the next day. In the meeting, Emily laid out the strategies she was putting into action to grow the holding, showcasing tangible results and thorough plans. Her presentation was so persuasive that it eliminated any uncertainty. By the conclusion, Victor attempted to interject. With all due respect, Ms. Carter, your ideas are ambitious, yet I find myself questioning their practicality in light of the risks we encounter. Emily maintained her composure, offering a measured smile. Victor, I appreciate your concern, but I refuse to let baseless doubts impede the advancement of this company. The board has confidence in my abilities, and our outcomes are a testament to that. Their backing was unanimous, leaving Victor to watch his influence fade away. Following the meeting, Richard encountered Emily in the parking lot. You were exceptional in there, he remarked, clearly impressed. Thank you, Emily responded, feeling both drained and fulfilled. Victor won't back down easily, but you've proven that you won't be taken down without a struggle. Emily smiled, a newfound strength radiating from her. I've learned from the best, she remarked, glancing at Richard. The days after their triumph over Victor Hale enveloped Emily and Richard in an unexpected tranquility. In the midst of recent upheaval, both individuals sensed they were on the path to progress. Yet, they understood that restoring trust was a journey that required patience, marked by obstacles and instances of openness. The day following the board meeting, Emily chose to take a break to be with Noah. She aimed to compensate for the moments consumed by the tensions of the holdings and Victor's relentless threats. When Richard reached out to see how they were doing, Emily astonished herself by extending an invitation for him to accompany them on a trip to the park. Let's engage in a little game for those who merely peruse the comments. Drop Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who have journeyed this far will get it. Now let's move forward with the tale. Upon their arrival, Noah dashed towards the playground, leaving Emily and Richard to settle on a nearby bench. The air was filled with a sense of ease, yet an unspoken tension lingered between them. Richard took the moment to shatter the quietude. Emily, I understand that our situation is delicate, but I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here. I promise not to disappoint you or Noah. Emily met his gaze, weighing his words thoughtfully. She acknowledged Richard's sincere attempts, yet she understood that the divide between them was rooted in more than just recent occurrences. You're making an effort, Richard, and I appreciate that, she responded gently. But rebuilding trust is a process, particularly after all that has transpired. Richard nodded, comprehension dawning. Just as he was about to reply, Noah dashed back to them, clutching a tiny flower he had discovered on the ground. Look what I found, he exclaimed, his face glowing with delight. Emily chuckled, accepting the flower from her son and planting a kiss on his forehead. Instances like this brought back the reasons she battled fiercely to safeguard Noah. Following their outing, Richard sensed it was the appropriate moment to discuss a long-held secret with Emily. He understood that to genuinely restore her trust, he had to be entirely truthful. That evening, he reached out to Emily with a message, inviting her to meet in a neutral location. They settled on the same restaurant where their paths had first crossed again. As Emily stepped in, she found Richard already there, his solemn demeanor indicating the weight of the discussion ahead. Thank you for coming, he started, his anxiety palpable. There's something you need to know, something I should have shared with you long ago. Emily folded her arms, her stance indicating a readiness to engage, yet with a hint of wariness. I'm all ears. Richard inhaled deeply before he started to speak. After our breakup, my family didn't just push me to end things with you. They took actions I only learned about recently. My father employed an investigator to track your movements, seeking any information that might protect our family's legacy from you. Emily stayed quiet, but her demeanor shifted, revealing a steely resolve. What was he truly seeking? She inquired, her tone steady yet resolute. Anything that could damage your reputation or explain the separation, Richard confessed with a hint of remorse. Yet, the most troubling aspect is that they exploited what they uncovered to control me even more. I recently discovered that they were aware of Noah long before I was. The revelation struck Emily like a blow. She rose to her feet, seething with anger. Are you saying your family was aware of Noah from the start? That they kept an eye on me, influenced you, and you never saw it coming? The anguish in her voice was clear. Richard rose too, attempting to soothe her. I had no idea, Emily. If I had the chance, I would have taken action. But now that I do, I'm focused on making things right. My father will no longer have any sway over me or us.
Y assure you.
Emily stepped back, grappling with the weight of it all. It was difficult to come to terms with the fact that, despite the passage of time, the influence of the foster family still cast a long shadow over their existence. After a brief pause, she faced him again, her demeanor easing just a bit. I think you were unaware, Richard. Yet, that doesn't lessen the difficulty of the situation. Safeguarding Noah has always been my foremost concern, and I cannot allow anything to jeopardize his safety. Richard nodded, grasping the significance of Emily's duty. And that is precisely why I am here, Emily. I wish to safeguard Noah. I have no desire to pose a threat to him or to you. My intention is to provide support. She observed him closely, noticing the genuine emotion reflected in his gaze. Despite all that had transpired, there was an undeniable quality in Richard that instilled a sense of hope in her, that perhaps he was genuinely striving for transformation. Very well, Richard, she finally replied. We'll begin anew, but there's one stipulation. Everything related to Noah or our relationship has to be grounded in honesty. No more hidden truths. Richard reached out, finalizing the deal.
Y assure you.
In the subsequent days, Emily and Richard collaborated to create a more consistent schedule. Richard embraced a more engaged position in Noah's life. From driving him to school to participating in parent-teacher meetings, he was resolute in being the father Noah needed. Meanwhile, Emily started to observe that, despite the wounds of the past, a fresh connection was blossoming between them. Richard revealed a more sensitive and attentive side, qualities she hadn't noticed in him previously. One afternoon, while they played in Emily's backyard, Noah posed a question that surprised them both. Mommy, can Richard live with us? Emily and Richard shared a glance, taken aback. Before Emily could reply, Richard crouched next to the boy. That hinges on your mom, Noah. But what truly matters is that I'll always stand by you. Emily smiled softly, her fingers tenderly running through her son's hair. Noah's innocent question brought a lightness to the atmosphere, yet it also prompted Emily to ponder the future that awaited their family. Later that evening, she found herself on the balcony, lost in the beauty of the stars, when Richard came to join her. A serene stillness enveloped them until Richard finally spoke. You know, Emily, as I reflect on all that's transpired, I come to understand that despite our missteps, we are fortunate. We have a second chance, a gift not afforded to everyone. Emily nodded, her gaze still fixed on the sky. And what are we going to do with this second chance, Richard? She asked softly. Richard smiled. We are embarking on a journey to create something fresh, hand in hand. No stress, no coercion. Just the two of us. Emily finally turned to him, her eyes brimming with resolve. Then let's begin. But this time, without fear of whatever lies ahead. With that vow, they both felt prepared to confront the future, assured that together, they could surmount any challenge. The subsequent months were marked by a deepening bond between Richard and Emily. The trust that had once felt distant began to mend through small, significant acts. Richard ensured he was there for every pivotal moment in the lives of both Noah and Emily. He dedicated his afternoons to assisting Noah with school projects and his evenings to crafting memories with Emily, whether through cooking dinners or engaging in long conversations beneath the stars. One evening, as they watched a movie together, Emily sensed Richard's gentle touch on her hand. He gazed at her with a serene smile, his eyes revealing a deeper connection. Emily, do you know what inspires me most about you? He asked, his voice gentle and filled with warmth. What? She responded, a curious smile spreading across her face. Your strength. Despite all we've faced together, you remain the remarkable woman I fell for from the start. It inspires me to strive for improvement each day. Emily experienced a comforting warmth enveloping her heart. It was unusual for Richard to reveal his feelings so candidly, and every word appeared to dissolve the final remnants of the walls between them. And you astonish me daily, Richard. I believe, deep within, I always sensed there was more to you, something beyond the man burdened by his family's demands, she said, softly caressing his face. The two leaned in, and Richard pressed his lips to hers gently, a kiss filled with the hopes of a shared future they were eager to create. A few weeks later, Richard felt it was time to move forward. He wanted to demonstrate to Emily the depth of his feelings and his dedication to what lay ahead for them. With Noah's enthusiastic support, Richard set out to orchestrate an unforgettable surprise. On a clear spring evening, he led Emily to a hidden countryside retreat. Upon their arrival, she was captivated by a charming pavilion, softly illuminated, with rose petals strewn across the floor and a beautifully arranged dining table awaiting them. "Richard, what is all this?" she asked, her surprise evident as he led her to the table. "Just a special evening for the most special woman in my life," he replied, a smile lighting up his face. Throughout dinner, they shared laughter, engaging in conversation and reminiscing about the past. As the meal came to a close, Richard stood, took Emily's hand, and guided her to the center of the pavilion. He knelt before her, retrieving a small velvet box from his pocket. "Emily Carter, you are the love of my life, the woman who has shown me the true essence of family, strength, and redemption. I wish to share my life with you forever. Will you marry me?" Emily was at a loss for words, tears cascading down her cheeks as she nodded fervently. "Yes, Richard, I will," she managed to say, her voice heavy with feeling. Richard gently placed the ring on her finger and rose, enveloping her in a warm embrace. Noah, who had been observing from his concealed spot, dashed out and exclaimed, "I knew Mommy would agree." The trio shared a hearty laugh, and in that instant, everything seemed just right. Months later, Richard and Emily exchanged vows in a stunning garden ceremony, enveloped by the warmth of friends and family. Emily donned an exquisite lace gown, and Noah, dressed in a miniature suit, held the rings with a radiant smile. As Emily approached him, Richard was overwhelmed with gratitude. She was his steadfast anchor, his companion, and now his beloved wife. As they exchanged their vows, each spoke with genuine emotion, pledging to stand by and cherish one another through every twist and turn of life. The reception buzzed with happiness, laughter, and lively dancing. In a heartfelt gesture, Richard unveiled a song he had thoughtfully selected for Emily, guiding her to the center of the dance floor while the crowd looked on with admiration. "I've always envisioned this moment with you," he murmured as they swayed together. Emily beamed, her eyes glimmering, "and now it's ours for eternity." A few days post-wedding, Emily started to observe subtle shifts in her body. Overwhelmed by persistent fatigue and waves of nausea, she made the choice to consult her doctor. The revelation that awaited her was both astonishing and exhilarating. She was expecting a child. She intended to reveal the news to Richard in a memorable manner. That evening, she set the table for a modest dinner at home, placing a note beneath his plate. When Richard lifted it, he found the words, "Our love is growing. I'm pregnant." Richard gazed at Emily, utterly engulfed in his feelings. "Are you serious?" he inquired, his voice heavy with emotion. Emily nodded, and he enveloped her in a warm embrace, showering her with kisses. "I can hardly believe I'm going to be a dad again. This is incredible, Emily." Noah, having eavesdropped from the hallway, burst into the room. "Am I going to have a little brother or sister?" he inquired with enthusiasm. Emily chuckled and lifted him into her arms. "Absolutely, darling. You're destined to be the most wonderful big brother ever." 9 months later, Emily welcomed a beautiful baby girl named Lily into the world. Richard was utterly enchanted as he cradled his daughter for the first time, while Noah bubbled over with enthusiasm at the prospect of meeting his baby sister. The days that ensued were brimming with love and joy. The home resonated with laughter, and Richard and Emily sensed they had finally discovered true happiness. "Our family is complete now," Richard said, cradling Lily in his arms while observing Noah play on the floor. Emily smiled, sitting next to him and resting her head on his shoulder. "Yes, it is, and I couldn't be more thrilled." With Noah and Lily alongside them, Emily and Richard realized they had triumphed over every obstacle and created something genuinely remarkable. Do you believe Emily made the right decision in forgiving Richard? Share your thoughts in the comments. Please rate this story on a scale from 0 to 10. What score would you assign? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to stay updated with all our stories. For more touching tales, click here on the end screen.